Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. In this video, I'll walk you through the demo of how to create users, groups, and roles with AWS Identity and Access Management, which we call the IAM. We then move on to create policies as well as permissions and show you how all these permissions and policies affect a particular user or group. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel now, like our videos, and share for others to know. See you in the video. So now we have logged in into our EC2 console. We type IAM in our service search. So let's type IAM. Click on this IAM. Now we have 0 groups, 0 users, 2 roles, which is default, no policies, no identity providers. So our first thing is to create users. Okay. We go to user, click on users, click on create user. Let's give the user a name. Let's say George. Click on provide user access to AWS console because we want the person to log in. You click on that. We want to create an IAM user. IAM user. Okay, so click on IAM user. Now we can give the person custom password or we can do auto-generated. In this case, we are going to stick to auto-generated password. Okay. And then show users must create a new password at the next login. That is recommended. So we stick to that so that the person logs in by himself, is able to change the password, and then he can be able to choose his own password. Now, AWS, like I was saying, if you create AWS account, it gives you the root user. Okay, meaning that you can be able to do or perform any function you want with the account. AWS recommends that immediately you create the new account, create a user, and then grant that user administrative rights so that you can be able to perform your daily tasks with this new user you have created, this IAM user you have created, and leave the root user account and leave that for just billings, because billings and other things are in the root user account. Okay, so in this case, we're going to make George an administrator. So we click on next, and it's saying that we should add George to a group. In this case, we are not going to do that since we haven't created a group. So we go to next, and automatically we have one permission which has been assigned, saying that IAM user change password. Because we want users to change password upon login, it is an automatic permission that has been attached to this user. So we go ahead and we click on create user. Okay, so our user is created. Now we can use this URL to log in into our AWS console. Our username is George, and this is the password. Download the CSV file so that anytime you need to come back to it, you can be able to use it. In my case, I'm going to download the CSV file, and then I come back to IAM users. Okay, so I want to create an alias for my user such that I don't have to remember this AWS account ID. Okay, so I go to create, then I give it a name, an alias. Let's say Cloud Tech with Sam. So I create an alias. Okay, so in this case, if you go to users and then we check for George, the URL now changes. So now we now have Cloud Tech with Sam. That is the new URL that George is going to use instead of the account ID. Now let's go into a separate browser and see what happens with George. So I log in into my Safari browser. Then I type aws.amazon.com. So I go to sign in. Now, since George is an IAM user, you are not going to sign in using the root account. You are going to sign in using our IAM user. Okay, so I click on this. I type in my alias. Cloud Tech with Sam. Next. It's asking for the username, so that will be George. And the password, I need to get it from the, so I copy the password. Then I go back to my AWS console. Then click on sign in. No, we don't want to save. Now it's requesting for us to change our password. Okay, so the old password, I put it in there. Then I create a new password. So let me just put in my new password. Change password. Not now. Now when you look here, it's saying that George at Cloud Tech. This is an indication that it is an IAM user. Now when you go to this one, it tells you Cloud Tech with Sam. So this is the root user. Okay, let's see whether we can be able to list or create an EC2 instance. Already here, everything is telling us access denied, access denied. So let's go to EC2. Everything is telling us access denied because we don't have permission to do that. That is why it's telling. When you go ahead to launch an EC2 instance, it will give us an error. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is that we have to go to our root user and then give permission to George. Now before we do that, it is advisable to create a group and define policy and define permissions on the group such that every user which is put in that group will inherit the permissions on that group. Okay, so I will go ahead and create, let's say, 5 more users. Okay, okay, so we now have 4 users at the moment. Okay, now let's go to groups. Click on user groups, create group. Now in this case, I'm going to create a user for admin. Okay, so let's say admin groups. It's telling us to add a policy. Mind you, I've told you a policy is nothing but a set of rules or a set of permissions. Okay, so in this case we are going to add this permission to our admin role. So we are giving admin access, everything admin. You click on that, then you go to create group. Okay, so admin group has been created. We now have to add a user to this particular group. So you click on admin, go to add users. Okay, click on add users. You want to add George as an admin. So click on that, click on George, and then click on add users. So now George has assumed the role, no, the permission of he's been given permission of admin users. Okay, now to check the permissions or to check the details of this admin group, the users, we have George here. If you click on users, we have one user. If you click on permissions, it will tell you that we have administrator access. Okay, it means that any user that we put into this group will assume an admin user. Okay, so now let's go back to our Safari browser and see what George can be able to do now. So let's refresh this. Now you can see that George is able to do so many things. So let's go to S3, a simple thing, so that we can be able to see, we can be able to create something. So we create bucket. Okay, general purpose. Let's say cloud tech with some dash bucket. Nothing new here. We don't want to do anything. We just want to see what George can be able to do now. Click on create bucket. Now George has been able to create buckets. Okay, he can be able to list all the buckets. Previously he couldn't do that because now he has been given admin access, meaning that he has access to everything in our AWS account now. Okay, now let's go ahead and create another group and then put a different user into that group, and let's see what the person can be able to do. Okay, so we go back into the root user and then we create another group. Let's say let me see which ones I created. Okay, let's say Alice. Alice works with the marketing department. Okay, and Alice wants to have access to our AWS account. So we are creating a group for Alice. Now the first one I created, I added the permissions right then. So this time we don't want to do that. Let's say we forgot to add permissions. What do we do? Okay, it's telling us not defined, permission not defined. Now we have created the marketing group. Okay, so to add permissions on already or an existing group, you click on that particular group. When you come to users, there are no users. When it comes to permission, there are no permissions. So you click on permissions. You go to add permission. We have attach policy. Now let's say this group, we are giving them only access to EC2 full access. Okay, they only require to work with EC2. Now, as a security measure, AWS says what AWS recommends you do what you call the least privilege principle, which means that you don't grant access, you only grant access to a user for what he needs and nothing else at a particular time. Only the things that the user needs is what you grant access to. Okay, so in this case, we want to practice the least privilege principle on this group by giving access to only EC2 and nothing else. So let's add a user. Click on users tab, click on add users. We now want to add Alice. Okay, click on Alice and then click on add user. Okay, so let's get to users. Let's click on Alice and let's see whether she has. Let's go to dashboard. So our cloud tech is still available. Now let's go to our Safari browser and then log out George. Okay, so log back in. Now instead of providing our 12-digit account ID, we put in the alias. IAM username Alice. What is the password? Let's go and look for Alice's password. Okay, so we click on this, copy it, and then put it in here. Again, it's requesting us to change password, so old password, the new password, confirm password. Okay, we have been able to log in with Alice. Like I said, Alice at CloudTech, meaning that this is an IAM user. Now let's go to the things Alice can perform. Click on, let's type in EC2. Let's see whether Alice can be able to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, let's say test Ubuntu. We want to key pair. Let's create a new key pair. Let's name it Alice. Create key pair. Okay, so allow. Everything looks fine. Security groups okay. Click on launch instance. So Alice has been able to create an instance. He has been able to list. Let's go to instances. Now Alice is able to list instances. Everything okay. Now let's see whether Alice can be able to create an S3 bucket, for instance. Create bucket. S3 bucket is a global service, so you need to provide distinct or unique names. Okay, so click on. It's giving us an error saying that failed to create bucket. To create a bucket, the S3 create permission is required. Okay, So meaning that Alice can be able to do everything with EC2 services, but cannot do anything else with S3 or any other services apart from. So this is the least privilege principle. Always and always give user access to the only resource or the things that person, that user needs. Nothing more, nothing else. Okay. So Alice is restricted to only EC2 instance. Now let's go back and then try and see if you can be able to create roles. Okay, I told you roles are not assigned to users per se, but they are assigned to application services, APIs, such that they can be able to talk to our AWS resources, okay, by providing them with temporary credentials such that they can be able to interact with our AWS resource. Okay, so let's go to roles. Create roles. AWS service role. Okay. Now, these are other services that we can create, but the commonly used ones are the EC2 and the Lambda. Okay. So we click on EC2. Only EC2. Click on next. Then we are as allowed to attach a policy. So let's say we want to attach an IAM policy for IAM read only. Okay, you click on this. Sorry, you click on this one, you check that box, and then you click next. It will ask for you to give a role name. So what we are going to do is that we are going to say EC2 IAM, let's say read only role. Okay, then this will give a brief description of what we want, and then we click on create role. Okay, you see that the role has been created over here. So anytime you need this particular role, because it has been created, wherever you want to use it, it will show up, and then you choose this particular role. Okay, so please, if this tutorial or this video has provided value, please subscribe to the channel, like our videos, recommend or share to other users, such that YouTube will promote the videos to other people. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.